Hey, what's up, and welcome to my corner of the internet. So, I finished another anime, and, well, it wasn't bad, but I guess it was anticlimactic. It had a lot of good points. Like, it wasn't, like, unwatchable. It was just anticlimactic, and it didn't necessarily resolve things the way that it could have been resolved. And the anime that I'm talking about is Kamisama Kiss.
ここに言ってたんだ。20年間も俺に留守番をさせやがって。ぶち殺せ
So, this shoujo has 2 seasons. It is by Julieta Suzuki. This might be the first name I've ever pronounced correctly. And basically, it's a romance. A bit of a romance. It deals with the gods. It deals with a lot of Japanese folklore. It intertwines it and mixes it wonderfully. Our main character is interesting in her own right, I guess. It's honestly, it gave me a little bit of Fruit Basket-esque. It just in our like main girl and what we get from her in her personality, though very different from Toru, but I do see some of the similarities. So basically, our main character is named Nanami. She's a girl. She ends up being homeless, and then randomly she helps out a stranger, and this stranger ends up being a god and then giving his godhood to her, and now she's the god of the land. And that's where our story basically starts off.
結ばれませ。さすれば。巴、私を助けろ!
So a lot of the strengths that comes within this story comes from our main love interest, Tomoe. And basically, he is a fox spirit who was a bit of a delinquent, who was basically just a murderer. Well, not really a murderer. We don't necessarily see him as a murderer, but he was kind of on the bad side. He was just running crazy, doing crazy stuff. He was burning, setting fires. He was just outside. He was in the streets, you know? Like, he was just a horrible person doing what he was doing, but he was having fun. He was going to the hotels, dealing with the women. He's just outside. And he just ran with this super evil demon that, you know, they were just outside. They were just going crazy. That, you know, the normal stuff you do. And he has a very interesting character arc. And his character arc is built upon the shifts and changes that has happened to him now that he is now in charge of this shrine, even though his god is always missing. Basically, Mikage, the god that ends up giving his godhood to Nanami, is like always missing. He is a stepfather who goes to get the milk all the time, even though in the beginning he was pretty much there. And we never, I'm gonna just be honest with you, I'm gonna spoil it for you. We never really find out why this all happens and why this transpires. We never really find out anything. This is kind of part of one of the detracting features to this anime, is it's a little anticlimactic.
私が巴のこと好きって言ったらどうするのよ。
So back to Tomoe. Tomoe is filled with so many abandonment issues, and it's showcased throughout the anime through some of his flashbacks, through some of his moments where Nanami leaves the shrine to go to school, and Mikage's face or words just flashes to him, and a lot of the emotions felt by Tomoe is there. It's honest, it's true, and it's sometimes incredibly sad because this genuinely affects him, and it shifts and changes his actions, and it's to the point where I suspect the romance between Nanami and like Tomoe is a little fake to me, at least in my mind, because like I think it's built upon her being around. And as much as they want to say this is a real romance as the story comes on, at the end of the day, I believe it's just built on the hole that Mikage left. And now that Nanami is there and she is of love interest, that it's because possible to grow. And I don't know, it's just weird. There's a lot of this just weirdness within this anime that kind of was just a hit or a miss for me. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And throughout this anime, there's this constant back and forth of humans and spirits should not intermingle, yes and no. There's no real explicit reason why they shouldn't. And when they do finally give the reason, And it's interesting. It's actually a very well thought out answer. So I'll give them that. That is a very well thought answer into why this is something that is avoided between these two separate entities. And it deals with the idea of death for humans versus the idea of death for like spirits, and how time is different for both of them. And that's a very intriguing answer, and I do love that. And I guess I should have known by that answer how anticlimactic this ending was going to be for the entire anime. Though I do believe one day, I don't know when, if it gets enough popularity, we might get a season 3, because it definitely deserves a season 3 to follow through on a lot of the plot points that were just like not really given the time to really get where they needed to go, I guess.
取り繕わず七海が好きだと認めたらどうだ。貴様を見ていると
鏡を見ているようでイライラ。
This anime is average, but it has a lot of good things going for it, especially when it allows itself to follow through. It's not necessarily trying to be the humorous shoujo that has these jokes. It's very serious. Our main character has so much beauty within her spirit and emotional ties that bring her to who she is to this day. Even though she has a very great character, it's almost like weird that she's such a good person, I guess. Like it's like randomly becoming a god and then actually being a good person is such a different and interesting guess. Like, I don't know, it sucks because the story never really tells us how or why Mikage does what he does. And that's one of the things that always keeps me wondering, because like Nanami was just a stranger on the street. There was no particular reason that we know of. And I'm pretty sure I should read the manga. There's probably way more context on a lot of these things within the source material. But I'm just going strictly off the anime at this point, and I may, if I see enough like hubbub about it, I may give it a chance to go look around.
友へ町に行ってくるよ。
Throughout this entire show, there's a lot of changing of feelings, changing of hearts. It has a very interesting way of showing character development and how characters deal with the changes of their new situations. Every single character changes, so I gotta give it that. And that's one of the things I do love about shoujo, is a good bit of our characters do not end up the same from the beginning, even though towards the end of the anime currently, there was no real confrontation that solved the main love interest between the two characters, but there was growing along the path. There was subtle hints that said, hey, we're gonna figure this out, or hey, we're gonna face these things, even when the hints are there. But I will say this is a good anime if you want to watch something and appreciate for what it is, because it's not half bad. It's genuinely a good anime. I enjoyed it. It's just, it was a little anticlimactic. It missed out on a lot of plot points that were just there, and it was keeping on ramping up on it. And whenever we saw Mikage, it felt like the story was going to get pushed further and further along, and we're going to see Tomoe and his changes in a lot of his past, but sometimes it just somehow skirted around it, which was unfortunate. And the story suffered because of it, and it had a lot of pieces that made it so much more interesting. So all in all, this story is not half bad. I would recommend it just to watch and I guess turn off your brain and enjoy a nice shoujo story where there's a bit of development, there's not a lot of issues, but there's some good, well thought out and warm moments. You do come out of this feeling warm, and our characters do have a lot of change throughout it. So please go check this out, and thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I appreciate you. Have a great day.